What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Form Check Friday. The channel is back. We've been really busy. We've been working on the documentary. We've been trying to come up with ways to streamline this type of content and the training logs, come up with ways to still provide value and quality through the content while being able to put a lot more work into our bigger videos, of which we have a few very exciting ones coming out shortly. Now, I do want to take a second to mention we have some seminars coming up in Europe. We're going to be in the UK and in France in April, May. So if you're interested in more details about that, go ahead and head over to calgarybarbell.com, click on the seminars link and check that out. If you guys are interested in being featured on Form Check Friday, we use a random number generator drawn from the inbox from formcheckfriday@gmail.com. Go ahead and submit your videos to there. If you don't get chosen, don't worry, no need to resend. We keep all the emails in there. Once we process one and use it for the show, we then delete it and it goes away. But if you have submitted in the past, you are still there and eligible for the draw. Without further ado, we're gonna get down to it here. And our first submission comes from Dewey. Now, Dewey, I really hope I'm pronouncing your name right. But Dewey's biggest thing, he says, is that he high bar squats because low bar kills his elbows and really affects his bench and his deadlift. He says he has a little bit of problem with control in the bottom and losing back position, which is something I definitely start to see as we get into the third rep here and the final rep of this set, right there. So as we come back up, watch this back angle right here. Get my pencil out. Look at these cool features. So watch this back angle here as we come back up. There we go. We start to see that kind of tip forward a little bit right there, and the bar rolls up and over his back, even just slightly. So let's watch that again. And the biggest thing I think that you could do here, Dewey, is first off, try and lock those shoulder blades and lats down a little harder as you hit the hole and as you drive out of the bottom. So right here, I want you to really be focusing on driving the shoulder blades and lats down. Sorry. And as you come back up, that'll help you maintain position just a little bit better. One other thing that I would maybe consider, at least, is the potential of widening the stance. Now, it might just be that you'd be a bit better suited for a wider stance. It might not be the case, but I think that's something worth investigating if you're interested in fixing your squat. Now, all this being said, I think your squat is pretty proficient throughout. There's really not a lot of issue, but there are kind of two major things that I would work on for your squat if you want to try to solve these problems. Now, number one is I would work on maybe trying to get into low bar. Now, when I say low bar, I don't mean I want that bar 5 inches lower than where it is now, held on by your hands and just torturing your elbows and wrists. What I think might be possible, and a lot of times when I say low bar, I mean just a little bit lower than high bar. A lot of people comment that my high bar looks like my low bar and vice versa. Oh, I thought you were already doing high bar. In actuality, I use a kind of mid bar position, and it's just where it's comfortable. So I would try to move that bar a little bit further down your back, see if we can use that to help lock those shoulder blades down. And that would be the other big thing, is as you get into the bottom position, really think about using your lats to pull the elbows in towards your sides, lock those shoulder blades down, keep those lats tight as you drive up out of the hole. Hopefully that helps you, man. Our next submission here comes from Ibrahim. Ibrahim. Again, pronunciation not my strong suit. I apologize, guys. Now, he says that he has a lot of issues with his squat. He took a year off because it was just pissing him off so much. And coming back to it, he says he's just having all the same problems. He feels like he's tipping forward too far, feels weak at the bottom of the lift. He said he can't feel his muscles activating, and that he doesn't get sore from squatting. So first off, don't worry about soreness. Soreness is not necessarily indicative of a good or a bad session. I don't think it really means all that much in terms of the success of your performance of the movements or anything like that. So let's check this squat out. I think one of the big things is that you're just being a little too hard on yourself. I think honestly, for the most part, it looks quite good, quite proficient. We have a little bit of the knees kind of coming back out of the hole. Let's see if we can catch you in the bottom position here. And we've got let's put a little mark where the knee is right there. So now if we go back to the squat on the way up, we're seeing the knee kind of pop back just a little bit. It was less on that one, and it gets a little more as the set wears on here. So let's just watch through to the end. See that? We got that little bit of a shift back on that one, and we'll see if we can catch it on this last one where it's probably gonna be the most. So the knee's even a little bit further forward there, and as we come back, we see that little shift there. So what this is gonna do is it's gonna drive those hips back, which is gonna cause the hips to come up, which in a lot of cases is gonna cause that chest to fall a little bit and give you that feeling of sort of doing a good morning. So that, I think, is what you're talking about. But honestly, I think that if you think that your squat is so terrible and everything's off and everything's wrong, I think you're being hypercritical. I think that overall, this is a very good, well-performed squat. I think that we have a little bit of the knees kicking back. If you could do some pin squats or pause squats, that would probably help a lot. But I think the biggest thing is just to give yourself a little bit of a break, man. Honestly, and I don't mean break like take more time off squatting. If anything, I would squat more. And I think that's the number one thing I would recommend for you, Ibrahim, is squat more. Practice. You just need to get comfortable with the movement. And one of the reasons you're not feeling a whole lot in your legs might be that your trunk and your torso need to get stronger to be able to hold the weights in a good position so your legs can work through you. Perhaps your legs aren't being challenged yet because your weak point is your trunk. Best way to get your trunk stronger and more solid and tight for the squat more, believe it or not. So I would try to add frequency, add volume, add sets, add reps, whatever, and just try to work your way through more squatting. Practice more and you will get better. This is not a bad squat by any means, so don't get too wrapped up in that. Our next video here comes from Kevin, and Kevin is doing some deadlifts. Let's take a look at this. So Kevin says that he has some issues with his start position and that he can't seem to get consistent. Heavy weights pull him out of position. So now let's just kind of watch how Kevin goes through this set. Reps look pretty good. Similar. And kind of the same again. So if nothing else, you've got really good consistency, Kevin. But there's one thing I wanted to point out here. So if we slow this down and go right, oop, just about missed it there. Right there, you can see all these wrinkles in his shirt start to appear. And that's indicative of him locking those shoulders and lats down. Now you can see that the shoulder joint here is pretty far in front of the bar, as opposed to the shoulder joint being a little more straight up and down. Now, it is gonna be pretty unlikely that the shoulder blade or the shoulder is straight up and down from the bar. Usually, we wanna try to create a little more packed in this though. So what I would like to see you do is lock those shoulders down a little harder in that start position. As well, it looks like before we start pulling here, we're just kind of loose. And then in that position, okay, so you did a bit of a better job there. One more thing, actually, I'm gonna point out here, is with your lockout, I have a feeling those knees are a little bit soft, and again, those elbows are a bit far forward. So I would try and work on maybe not exaggerating, but finishing those deadlifts a little more and locking out a little bit better. With the start position, I think the biggest thing that you can learn and do a bit better is going to be to try to pull the slack out of the bar a little more. So now I noticed on a couple of those reps, you're kind of pulling your hips in, and that's good. I want you to really take that cue to heart and try to almost exaggerate how hard you're pulling yourself into tension against the bar. By the time you get into that bottom position, you should feel tightness through the lats, through the upper back, the lower back, the hips, the quads, the hamstrings. Everything should be really, really tight, and light weights should actually just float off the bar. Sorry, off the floor. Now, I think if you can get that nailed in, that's going to really help you sort out where that start position is for you. It looks like right now the start position's pretty good, but like I said, the big thing that I would work on here, and I'll just switch back over to this view here, is trying to get these lats locked down just another ½ inch or an inch. Really pull that shoulder blade down and keep it there as you start your lift. So the big things here, Kev, are going to be pull yourself into tension. Make sure those shoulder blades are down and the lats are really tight. Think about pinching your armpit shut really hard. And lastly, let's finish those lockouts a little more. Make sure those knees are straight. Make sure you're standing fully erect. Make sure your glutes are squeezed in, and make sure you're pulling your shoulders back just a little bit to get a little bit better lockout, because when you do compete, some judges might be pretty sticky on that. Our next video here, oh, I'm drawing on stuff, hold on, comes from Marcus. Now Marcus is actually doing a competition here. He's doing a meet, and so we just got a single rep, which generally speaking, guys, when you send in videos for Form Check Friday, I'd like to see more than 1 rep, but this is what we're working with today. So Marcus, honestly, this squat looks really good. I don't see really any issue or loss of positioning. Right here, you're in a good spot. As you come up, things stay relatively in position. It's not slow because of a technical issue or detail. I think it's just a strength thing. So for the most part, I would tell you to just keep squatting the way you're squatting, but there are kind of 2 really small things, if we want to get nitpicky, that I would like you to try and look at. Not necessarily that these are going to be the fixes that save your squat or make your squat go from, what do we got on there? Like 170, 200 something. It's hard to see, but anyways, this probably isn't going to put 70 kilos on your squat, but there are a couple of things that might be worth investigating here. So number 1, we've got the bar position here. So we can see the bar position is pretty high up on the traps, and as you come back up, cursor, we get that little bit of tip forward, and we can see this bar is kind of having some pressure forward and kind of rolling into your back and making you want to lean over. So I think, again, moving the bar slightly further down the back might be an advantage. I can't say with certainty, but that's something that I would maybe look at trying, is getting that bar a little bit further down the back. And the second thing here, it's very subtle, and this guy's shoulder's kind of in the way, but right at the very bottom, we can kind of see this foot here just kind of invert. And what I mean by inverting is we have these 3 points of contact. We have the heel just under the pinky toe and just under the big toe. Now, when we invert, we get that sort of tipping inwards towards the midline of the body, and that can cause some other issues up the chain. It looks like those are really minimal here, but that might be something worth thinking about, at least, is trying to keep that pressure nice and consistent. So those would be the 2 big things for you, Marcus. I think try to move that bar a little bit further down your back if you can, and try to just make sure that it stays locked into the back and doesn't roll up on you. Again, shoulder blade positioning like we said with Dewey. And lastly, I would just try to think about and cue the feet just a little bit. I don't think that's going to be a very make or break thing, but it might be something worth investigating and seeing how you're doing on that factor specifically. Oh, here we go. Clear. All right, so our next and final lift today is a squat from Davey. So Davey's over here doing some squats. He's got 170 kilos on the bar for a set of 4, and this is where we can kind of see a little bit more of an exaggeration of the fault that I pointed out for Ibrahim. So in Ibrahim's video earlier, we could see the knees kind of coming back and the hips shooting up. And we can see that to a little bit more of an extent here. So let's just catch his bottom position here. Point out the tip of the knee there. And then if we come back up, we can see how much that knee shifts in right there. So there's a fair bit of room here. And again, that's going to cause the hips to come up, and that's going to cause the chest to tip forward into that squat morning style. Again, not super pronounced. I don't think that this is a, oh God, you need to fix your squat. It's in danger of being terrible. It's so inefficient. It's not that at all, but it is a small fault that I think is worth investigating and correcting, both by cueing. So one of the things I want you to do is right here, I want you to think about keeping your knees right where they are, extending through the knee, keeping the torso angle relatively solid and unmoving, and pressing up through the quads. So think about keeping the knees forward, think about keeping the quads driving out of the bottom and not letting those hips back. That should go a long ways. The other thing that I would recommend is potentially working in some pin squats or pause squats to help you get a little bit more comfortable, a little bit stronger out of the bottom, and a little bit better at holding position when you drive up out of the bottom. So that's probably the biggest things, or the biggest number of things. And then here we have a shot of you in your sunglasses. Stoked. All right. Welcome to Form Check Friday. That is it for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching through with me. If you guys have any comments or questions, or you want to tell us that you like the style or you don't like it, if you don't like it, maybe be a bit constructive. Give us some suggestions on what we can do to make it better to view, and then we'll go from there. So thanks for tuning in. Any comments, questions, anything like that, leave them below. If you want to submit, it is formcheckfriday@gmail.com. Leave a like if you liked it, and we'll see you guys in the next one.